Boom.
Boom.
Hey, what's up, Niraj? Tyler, what's going down, man? Whiskey, we're here. What's going on? I'm like 90% positive I have all the stuff set out. I was rushing to get this thing going. Mr. BH, welcome. But tonight's gonna be a fun cocktail. We're gonna be doing a Seelbach. There's bourbon in that. Bourbon and champagne. Well, I'm gonna be using a Prosecco. Barrel Blue Fies, welcome, man. Anagram, welcome. John Barr 881, welcome. I know I'm back. Work's been crazy. Today it was a little bit lighter, and I was able to get home and get things set up. But I've been traveling for work. Got the bitters ready, man. Roland and Jay, what's going on, man? Get out of here, guys. My kids are hanging out behind the bar. TB Ryan Reynolds, what's going on? Mark Korea, welcome. Bourbon Nerd, welcome. I think this is appropriate. Well, I don't know if it's appropriate cocktail. I mean, Father's Day is coming up this weekend. I guess it's kind of like maybe more of a manly brunch cocktail. All right, we'll see. Believe it or not, the Seelbach is one that I forgot about. Track the Trace actually requested this one. I haven't seen him join here yet. But this used to be my closing cocktail. So when I'd go to a bar and I had a couple, I would do it. Mark in Korea, well, good morning to you in Korea. SD Bourbon Buddy. But yeah, I think the Seelbach is good. It's a fun one. This is one where it's pretty much, it's all spirits based because bitters are pretty much a spirit. So it's all spirit based. Bourbon Circle, welcome. Ayo Spooné. Bone into the Future, welcome. But yeah, the hardest part for me, podcast. Will, what's up, man? The hardest part for me was trying to figure out which bourbon I want to use tonight. So a little surprised probably on what I picked. And I'll give you a perfect reason why. Barrels and Brews, welcome. And Drosky. All right. We'll give it like 10 more seconds, and I'll mount you guys up and we'll get started making this. It's also a good cocktail because I broke my juicer. So my stainless steel juicer, I broke it over the weekend making some cocktails. I don't know how it broke. The little pin in the top came out. It's the second time it's happened. I'll have to jerry-rig it up again. But that thing's a tank. It's indestructible. It's just that stupid hinge is the weakest part of the whole thing. But all the ones that I've bought in the past at the grocery store. Track the Trace. There you go, man. All for you, man. Seelbach, as requested. But those grocery store ones, the yellow ones and the green ones and stuff like that, I can't tell you how many handles I've snapped on those, juicing some stuff. And it really is because I'm being stingy and I'm trying to get as much juice out of that lemon and that lime. I shouldn't squeeze it so hard. Oh man, thank you. The Seelbach is one that I forgot about. I was saying earlier, it usually was my closing cocktail when I'd go to a bar. So after a few, that'd be my one, if they could do it. Because for me to do a Seelbach at a bar, they would have to pass the daiquiri test first and a couple other things before I would request that. I say if you go to an average bar and you request a Seelbach, they are going to look at you like you are crazy and not know what it is. TB Ryan around. No, man, I'm a skinny dude. Those things are just cheap, man. And after you wash them, they just get more fragile. Pigeon Tree Crafting, what's up, man? You've been rocking out some pretty awesome stuff lately, man. I got my eye on some of those watch bands that you've been doing. Beards and Bourbon Podcast, what up? You request a whiskey neat talk. Yeah, some bars I go. And if I ask them for a daiquiri and they tell me they don't have a blender, I immediately say, yeah, I'll have a beer. Or I'll look on the shelf and see if they have any whiskey worth drinking. But I tell you, Maker's Mark's been growing on me lately. I've been traveling a little bit, and so those bars in the airports, they're not very fancy. Unless you're in Denver airport, then there's a very fancy bar that actually has pappy that you can get. But for the most part, Maker's Mark, I think that's my go-to. Unless they have Knob Creek. I'm a Knob Creek fan, but it's got to be the 120. All right, enough of me yapping away. Let's get you guys started on this. And I'm surprised on the Makers because I'm not a huge wheat whiskey fan. All right, I'm gonna give away what bourbon I chose right there. Some of you might be a little upset by that because, well, it's not an expensive one. It's not a super hard one to find. It kind of is a hard one to find. We'll see. But yeah, Maker's 46 is legit. 46 is a good one. I think regular old Makers, man, I can go with that. All right, so you guys are mounted up. I'm gonna go back behind my bar. I won't be able to see any of the comments that you guys are doing, but feel free to continue making fun of me as I build a Seelbach out for you. And I'll come back after I'm done and answer any questions that you have and see if I can skim through some of the comments that you have there. All right, so the Seelbach. So the Seelbach is one of those where it's a champagne cocktail. I'm gonna be actually using Prosecco, and I'll explain to you why I chose to use Prosecco tonight. But this is one where it's kind of a fun one to build because when you're using the champagne flute, and it has bourbon in it, Cointreau in it, and then it actually calls for 2 types of bitters and a whole heck of a lot of 2 types of bitters. So we'll be going through that tonight. But it's a super simple cocktail to make. There's no shaking involved, no juicing involved. We're gonna be doing a little stirring with this one tonight. And you don't even have to do a ton of stirring. That's a light stirring before you strain it into your champagne flute. All right, so with that, give you a quick recipe rundown. So we're gonna build this in the mixing glass. It's gonna call for 1 ounce of bourbon, a 1/2 ounce of Cointreau. So depending on the Seelbach recipe that you pull up, and I looked through a few of my books that has this recipe in it, it calls for as much as 7 dashes of each of the Peychauds and the Angostura bitters. So that's a 14 dashes of bitters. I did tinker with this one a little bit, and I actually, believe it or not, I landed at 6. So I'm still gonna be putting 12 dashes of bitters overall in this cocktail. But what you're gonna find is this is a little bit sweeter bitters, so these kind of almost balance each other out with that. This adds a lot of the color to the drink at the end. But when it came to really the ultimate decision of what I wanted to go with from a bourbon standpoint, I messed with a few. I ended up going with this one, and I'll tell you why. This particular bourbon, from a taste profile standpoint, is just very simple. It doesn't really have any bite to it. It's pretty smooth. It also just is fairly one-dimensional in taste. Just has that traditional caramely bourbon flavor that's in it. And it's also not a very high proof, right? So we're looking at 45% over there. So it's gonna handle a little bit of the dilution that we're gonna get when we add some Cointreau and we're gonna add the Prosecco in there. You could probably even get away with going with a 40 proof or 2 and be totally just fine. Anything that's not as mellow as this and is above 45%, it's gonna really start to push through all the other elements in the Seelbach, and it's just not gonna be very balanced at the end of the day. And then you're gonna kind of have like this kind of bittery, bourbon, bubbly Seelbach that isn't gonna be very good. Last, instead of going with traditional champagne, so I mean, if you want to get real nerdy for a second, traditional champagne has to be from the region of Champagne in France. I decided to go with a Prosecco. The reason I went with Prosecco is because it's a sparkling wine, it's out of Italy, it's sweeter. So pretty much all of the sweetness that's going to come into building this cocktail is going to come from basically your bourbon and then whatever champagne or sparkling wine you put in there. And so I tend to feel that because we're putting so much bitters in there, and with the Cointreau, it's a little bit dry. It does have some sweetness to it, but it's still a little bit of a bitter element to this as well, that I really wanted to get something that was going to be able to push through the bitter and have enough sweetness to be able to balance that out with this bourbon and make it shine. All right, so enough of me talking, let's get going. So this is a call for 1 ounce of bourbon. So I'm going to go ahead and add my 1 ounce. Believe it or not, I did chill my champagne flute, and it was nice and frosty, but it's warm in my house, so that went away quickly. 1/2 ounce of the Cointreau. So I'll go ahead and get that in there. And I know Tyler is loving the fact that I'm pouring this straight out the side instead of the front. And then we're gonna move on to our bitters. So like I said, super easy drink to build. So like I said, you know, I've seen recipes call for as little as 4 dashes of each and as much as 7. Really, this is the fun part. So this is where, if you're gonna make this drink for yourself, this is where you're gonna really need to kind of tinker around with it and see what you like. So you might like sort of that bitters element to come through, and so you might want more dashes of bitters. You might want to go up to 8 or 9. It's totally fine. Or you might decide that you don't really like it at all and you want more of that sparkling wine, champagne, and bourbon to shine through, and so you're gonna put less. But I landed at 6. So we got 6 in there, the Peychauds, and this is just tasty. And if you haven't tried bitters by themselves, just put a little dash right here on your hand and taste it by itself, because I'll tell you, it's good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now what we need to do is we just need to make sure we stir this up. So I'm gonna go ahead and add my ice. And the cool thing about this cocktail is it doesn't take a lot of stirring. We don't want to get too much dilution going on because we're going to be adding that Prosecco. And we want to keep this almost like a little bit of a concentrate. What we're really trying to do is just cool it down a little bit so that we don't get a warm Seelbach at the end of this. So after we get a little bit of stir, just go ahead and strain this into our champagne flute. And so you'll notice the color, and like I said, all that color is coming from the Peychauds bitters. It's actually a really cool looking drink. And then last, all you have to do is top it with Prosecco, a sparkling wine, or champagne. Some of the other, like Moet, I like that. I think that's a good one to use. I've used that in the past. It's a little pricey. I think the fun thing about this drink is, because they sell these little individual sized, you know, Proseccos and champagnes, you know, you don't have to feel too guilty about opening up a huge bottle, you know, to make yourself one cocktail. Uh-oh. Get this thing open. It's a twist top. There we go. Now, I don't know if it's true or not. This is a twist top, so I couldn't do it. But when you're opening up like a bottle of champagne, I was told in the past that you're not supposed to let it pop. It's supposed to sound like a sophisticated lady passing gas. So it's supposed to almost be like a little tss when you open it up. So you basically just fill the champagne flute up with the Prosecco. And then I got quite a hearty little lemon twist that I'm gonna add to this. I'm probably gonna have to cut it off. Yep. Just for a little bit of a garnish. And there you have it. Seelbach. Cheers. Oh, yeah. It's good. Oh, I missed that cocktail. Yeah, so this is definitely one, I will warn you, everything does sort of stand on its own when you first take a sip of it, and then it really comes together in the end. So on the first sip, you're gonna taste that champagne or that Prosecco or that sparkling wine. Then you're gonna really taste the bitter element from the bitters, the 2 types of bitters that you put in there. It doesn't shine through so much in it, but it does create a balancing effect. But then after you kind of hit your palate and you get all of this, and this kind of separate, then it forms in the finish and all really comes together quite nicely. And the finish is what makes this cocktail. It's just an absolutely delicious finish. Yep. Yeah, right there at the end. Right there at the end, everything really comes together, harmonizes, and it's almost like a nice honey, caramel, rock candy kind of taste to it. Oh, fantastic. I'm going to see if you guys got any questions and see what's been going on. All right, I got to go back here. Get you gives a little close up of that. I know I did a huge giant lemon twist in there. I didn't have time to cut it down to a nice skinny one and make it look all pretty. All right, let's see. Yeah, Ancient Age is a harder one to find. This is one I traded for. I actually got it from Steel Speakeasy. Me and him did a trade for it. Manhattans and Sazeracs are fantastic. Cointreau versus Grand Marnier. You could definitely do that. You're gonna get, so when you go to a Grand Marnier, it's sweeter in taste. And so you're gonna get a little bit more sweetness that's gonna come through with it. But I would say it would work. They're fairly interchangeable. So if I was gonna, yeah, you know what? Do it, go for it. The Grand Marnier, if you like it a little bit sweeter, do it. OKC food, so my juicer's broken. I gotta fix it and there's no juice in this one, but I promise next time I'll do a juicer flip for you. What are bitters? No, that's a good question. So bitters are basically, here, let's take a look at, so Angostura aromatic bitters. These, I mean, they're pretty self-explanatory, man. These, they're basically, there's two ways to make bitters. You can make them in like a very high proof alcohol, or you can make them in, with glycerin, and so you don't have any alcohol element in it. But what they are is they're just what they claim to be. They're bitter. And so inside of these, different concoctions, are all kinds of, recipes. So they use like, they add bark. If you're doing like, man, I'm gonna totally butcher this. This is the Peychauds bitters. But there's just a ton of different little herbs and things that they do in here to make these bitters. You can also buy spiced bitters, orange spice bitters, lemon bitters, lime bitters, anything that you're basically taking the bitter element of the substance and then, putting it into a high proof alcohol. So the good news is that bitters last forever. So once you open them up, yeah. Oh, look at it. Mark and Korea answered that question. Bittering agents used to tone down sweetness and enhance flavors. That's way better than I did. I knew you wouldn't like it pouring out the side. It's a habit, man. It's a habit. Yeah, Angostura is the standard, and they are for a reason. For those of you that want to make like a traditional old-fashioned, a lot of it is you get the sugar cube, you put it in the bottom of the glass, and then you dash it with your Angostura, and then you put in your, your orange, and then be able to do it. OKC Food Eater, yeah. Made some with Everclear, made some with Rittenhouse. Yeah, I've done my own bitters in the past before. It's actually really easy to do, and it's a lot of fun, but they're just so inexpensive to buy that it's easy to get tons of bitter. I'll show you, here, like these are all bitters. So these are all different types of bitters that I have down here. All right. But yeah, guys, that's basically it, man. It's easy. I do have a good old-fashioned recipe. If you click on my link inside of my Instagram, you can go to my YouTube page, and it's posted a few back. We did a smoked old-fashioned where we actually lit a cedar plank on fire, caught all the smoke in it, and then continued to build the cocktail after that. Will, no, bitters do not spoil because they are made in high-proof alcohol. And so you're good to go. Bourbon recommendations that are readily available for this. Yes. So Buffalo Trace, I could see where it could get muted in that. I would say Elijah Craig, just a regular standard Elijah Craig that's on there. That one would be a great one. Also, you're gonna think I'm crazy, but this one is easy to find and would work fantastically. Just a regular old blade and bow. This is a very muted, one-dimensional, light, easy sipping whiskey that would go very nicely and not overpower anything in that. Dapper Dad, I would agree. Woodford Reserve would be another one. Scrappy's Chocolate Bitters is fantastic. I like that one. Lost Well, I knew you were gonna bring that up. That's next week, buddy. So I gotta talk to you about that one. It's a little sweet. I'm not gonna lie. It's really sweet. So I've been tinkering with that one just a little bit because I think it could be really refreshing for a summer cocktail. That Wisconsin Old Fashioned. Track the Crazy. You can't find what in Nashville? You can't find the Blade and Bow? Beer Bourbon Barbecue, you're welcome. Thank you for joining. Glad I could show you how to do a Seelbach. It's sweet, man. Yeah, I mean, because it is. We'll talk about it. Man, really? You can't find Blade and Bow? That's everywhere. It's the grocery stores here. Let me know, man, if you really want. It's not that great. It's a mixing one. I wouldn't really drink it by itself. I would go with Elijah Craig first. Elijah Craig will stand out and good. Will. I know I got to plan it, man. We'll talk. But I am committed to coming out to Nashville. I just feel bad because if I come out there, I'm going to want to do everything. And I don't know if we'll be able to do everything. I'm going to want to go to the barn. I want to go to Still Speakeasy. I want to go to your house. And then I got to figure out what to bring. Blanton's is an allocation? Jeez, man, where are you at? Nashville. All right, man, track the trace, and I'm sure you're already doing it, but reach out to your bourbon community, man. We can take care of you and get you some of these common things that are out there. Man, that's unfortunate, man. I actually found an Elijah Craig Big Red 12 on the shelf yesterday, and I left it there. I should probably go back and get it, but I have like 5 bottles stashed away, so I don't need it. Tyler, you can absolutely invite yourself. That would be awesome. Yeah, Track the Trace, man. I mean, hit us up, man. Hit up Will, hit up the podcast, hit up myself. We can maybe figure something out. That sucks that those are allocated out there. California is definitely not the cheapest. I promise you that. So you have to pay a little bit of that California tax that's on there, and then if we do take care of you and get you some bottles, there's a little ship tax on that too that you got to take into consideration. But if it's worth it to you, just let us know, man. That's what it's all about. I would say there's probably like 25% of the bottles I have behind me I didn't find myself. They were either through trades or someone was taking care of me, and I returned the favor. All right, guys. Well, as always, if you have any requests, go ahead and send me a private message through Instagram. Be more than happy to build any cocktails that you're looking to build. But yeah, we did one last night. So we did a Seelbach. I don't think I told you the story about it, but this one they claimed that it was pre-prohibition, but it ended up being a totally bogus, made-up story from a bartender out of a Kentucky hotel. He later admitted it, but it was such a good cocktail that no one cared. So I'll leave you with that thought. As well, I'll see you guys next week. See ya.